Hey guys, how's it going? So I read this thing about primal play and how someone was like, I fight back and I aggressively get them to enforce their alphaness or their dominance. And some people, it really confuses a lot of people sometimes because they're like, oh, well, if you're doing that, then how is it that you're the sub, you know? And I'm like, well, it's a part of their dynamic. And it's overall who has the control. Like she might push him and all that sort of stuff, but does he still have the control or not? It was interesting because a while ago I was ended up talking with a couple, one of who was business alpha male during the during the day and had a mistress, and she and he were wanting to talk about how she can influence him or dominate him when he gets into a primal state, because he's obviously physically more powerful than she is, um, and she was quite small. And I said, well, it doesn't have to be a physical overpowering. It can be more of a your presence, because what denotes your dominance would be your presence, and the fact that despite him possibly going feral, losing control, going primal, to bring out that or to appeal to that part at all times where you can say, hey, no, stop, and enforce it, with just your personality, your words, your looks, is a big thing. And that requires quite a bit of talking, trust, communication, and enforcing of boundaries that they both have to get used to. Stature, appearances, looks, they don't really matter. Well, actually, they don't. Not saying don't really, but they don't matter when you have a good dynamic like that. It's built over time, through a lot of talk, communication, negotiation, awareness. Most importantly, awareness. I've seen very small, petite females who very girly and giggly, but when their partner, who's big gruffalo, gets a bit too out of hand, sometimes all it takes is a look, a gesture, a touch, and that's enough to rein in the beast, so to speak. Um, Having said that, it can be different for different people, but when he was asking, like, how can I know, or how I'm worried about hurting her and all sorts of stuff, I said, don't worry about that. She will let you know, and you, in the part of you, because you obviously care and are worried about it, will recognize that and say, hey, look, hurting is one thing. It doesn't mean that you are more dominant. um, it just means at the time you may or may not be unaware, but if you recognize her dominance, and even if you are hurting her, she will also understand that there are times when you can get out of control, which is why she has to come in and go, hey, no, might even be a bit more forceful physically, though it may not be necessary, um, to go, hey, okay, that's enough of that type of play, you settle down. And you see it all the time. I guess that's one of the things sometimes. Hey, Henrika. Some people are not quite understanding is that the whole male-female dynamic, males and females will dominate in different ways. A lot of the whole, women are completely oppressed throughout whole history, to me is absolute BS, because there are plenty of times when the male goes out, he does his thing, but then when he comes home, hands the money over to the woman who, basically runs the household, gives him his little portion of whatever spending money, and then he goes off and does, has his playtime because he's worked hard all day. She takes care of everything at home, and she actually rules the roost at home. And that's the thing, that shared work, that's a bit of a dynamic there when you think about it, responsibilities divided up, allocated, flowing. It doesn't mean that either one of them can't do the job. It's just that that's the way they fell. And with primal play on who is, the dominant and all that, it's not always necessarily who you expect, just like things are in the kink world. Who is the more dominant? Who holds the last final opinion? Well, in actual fact, both of you do, as both of you can walk away. However, within the dynamic, it's the respect that you have for the person and their awareness of the situation and play, or in play where you are, and respecting their opinion and trusting their judgment, to be able to go, hey, look, playtime's over, or settle down a little bit and we can play some more, and then keep on going. I don't know if it's just me, but that's kind of the way I think of things. Is it doesn't have to be physical, it doesn't have to be overt, it can be subtle. And there are some people who, also I'm aware, who believe that they are in charge when they aren't. It's interesting. But here's the thing. Being in charge, it isn't all the time. Being in charge ebbs and flows, because any good dominant recognises the skill set and the authority that their own submissive will have in particular areas, and allow them that they are the guiding force. Some guide them towards good, some guide them towards the not so good things. But that's what they live. It's what their life is. So, heading up into the weekend and plenty of play, think about that. When you see particular scenes, some of them, particularly in primal play, can get rough, and it seems like, one or the other has the power. Who really soothes the savage beast in those dynamics? I know my owner does frequently, scruff me, either with words or with a look, or just a, touch or something like that to say, calm down. But have you seen that type of play? Have you seen the dynamic that flows? What kind of dynamic and flow of play? If you've ever been into primal, and to me there's a bit of primal in everybody, prey or predator, sometimes it's just primal energy. Anyways, see you guys while I walk down the pretty arbor, which every time I'm here they're always doing something. It's fascinating. Anyway, have a good weekend. See ya.